Welcome to the SEC Unfiltered platform. I'm your host, Dave Shumate, kind of doing an instant reaction to the SEC ACC Basketball Challenge, the matchup announcement. I know we're getting to the thick of college football, the offseason, but remember, we cover every sport of the big three in the SEC, basketball, football, baseball. It's basketball season. I mean, it's going to affect the schedule. This is the second annual SEC ACC Basketball Challenge. Last year, I think there were 14 matchups with each team. I think each league going 7-7. So we really had nobody reign supreme in the 2023 matchup back in November. But we have the 2024 matchups formally announced now. A little underwhelming, but again, I mean, let's get to it. Let's just get to it. So first, remember, they split them up Tuesday and Thursday. So this year's going to be December 3rd and Wednesday, December 4th. They did this last year, split them up. It's 16 matchups. So we're leading off on Tuesday. They haven't announced times yet. Arkansas at Miami. Remember, this is a new Arkansas for you SEC fans following where John Calipari is now at Arkansas. Kind of like this matchup here. I think it'll be a fun matchup for them to go on the road. Arkansas, Jonell Davis, Jonas Adu, Trevon Brazil is back. They're going to have enough weapons there to be pretty good. It's not going to be an overly deep roster, but I do like where Arkansas is. I think they're definitely a preseason top 25 team. That'll be a fun matchup, them going to Miami. Cal at Missouri. Remember, Cal, SMU, and Stanford are new to the ACC now. That's going to be weird, but let me repeat myself. Cal, SMU, and Stanford, for people that hadn't followed conference realignment or really just forgot about it from a basketball standpoint, yeah, Cal's in this thing now. Cal goes to Missouri trying to get a bounce-back season for my guy Dennis Gates and the boys, Amani Bates. That'll be a fun matchup. I don't know off the top of my head how much Cal really has coming back for them, but this matchup kind of makes sense. Florida State at LSU. Florida State has not really been that good recently here with Leonard Hamilton. Matt McMahon and LSU was really disappointed in their transfer portal additions here. I think them and Vandy are sitting there kind of in that 15th, 16th spot in the new SEC heading into 24-25. Matchups of, hey, maybe one of these brands kind of steps up and takes over. Georgia Tech at Oklahoma. Porter Moser and his Oklahoma Sooners first year in the SEC. Georgia Tech, you probably like Georgia Tech a little bit maybe in this one. Call me wrong. This is probably more one of those toss-ups. I think they got the tiers right in how they'll be situated in the league there. Kentucky at Clemson. Kentucky was probably, to be honest, thinking they were probably going to get one of those Duke-Clemson matchups. I think Kentucky gets Kansas at the Champions Classic in Atlanta this year, so they don't get Carolina or Duke, but I thought that may be what they got. Just being honest, Clemson, remember they were in the Elite Eight last year. They'll lose PJ Hall. That'll be a fun matchup, though. I mean, at Clemson, before I preface all this, we got to understand the ACC does it outside of North Carolina and Duke because Louisville's down right now. Virginia hasn't been as good as they have been as of late. I know they made the tournament play-in game last year, but the ACC needs Louisville and Virginia to be good. They do. I mean, the big brands right now, and it's not even close, are really Carolina and Duke and Stanford, SMU, and Cal don't do it. They don't bring anything really to the table from a basketball standpoint. But Kentucky, Clemson, I think last year, it's a fun matchup. We'll see how Clemson does. Can they put it back-to-back? Notre Dame, Micah Shrewsbury, former Penn State coach, it was his first year at Notre Dame last year. They struggled. They're going to Georgia. That matchup makes a little bit. I actually like Mike White in the squad. I really do. I think they got a lot of people back. Silas Demery, Blue Kane, brought in some guys. I like what Georgia did in Mike White. I think I would not be shocked if any of the tournament. I like what Georgia did in the offseason. Ole Miss at Louisville, kind of an under-the-radar matchup here. Scott Beard and Pat Kelsey. Remember, Pat Kelsey was the College of Charleston. He was a Charleston coach last year where they lost in the first round to Alabama. Put up an offensive show. That's what they were really known for. I think that's kind of a fun matchup, but I think Chris Beard and them, they travel to the KFC Yum Center. This should be better than Louisville and Pat Kelsey's first year. I like Ole Miss here, but I think it's a very interesting matchup. South Carolina at Boston College, it doesn't really do anything for me. It really doesn't. I mean, Lamont Paris, I'm not as high on the Gamecocks as probably some. I think some are kind of living off just what have you done for me lately? They lost a lot. I think the Michi Johnson loss to Ohio State, him going to the portal, going back to Ohio State hurts. I know they brought Nick Pringle in from Alabama. He's a Palmetto State native. They do have Colin Murray Bowles back. So I like Carolina a little bit. I wouldn't put them in the tournament yet. This game just really doesn't do a lot for me up in Chestnut Hill. Syracuse at Tennessee, battle for the Big Orange. We'll see how that goes there. Tennessee should be Jordan Gainey's back. Zakai Ziegler leading the pack there. I mean, they lost some guys, obviously, Jonas Adu, Dalton Connect. I still like Tennessee here. Wake Forest at A&M. This will be the game. As disappointed as I am in this lineup, I think this is a very interesting matchup. Steve Forbes and his Wake Forest Demon Deacons group going to go face Buzz Williams and the boys in College Station in Aggieville. I think that'll be a fun matchup, one of the better matchups that night. I think that first matchup on Tuesday. So, I mean, if I was ranking them in order, I'd probably go Wake Forest. Texas A&M has my eye the most. Then Arkansas, Miami, and then probably Ole Miss at Louisville, depending on what Pat Kelsey and them are doing that very early in his first year at Louisville. But Tuesday night, Kentucky, Clemson could be good depending on how Clemson is. They can bounce back. And then Wednesday nights matchups. Alabama at North Carolina. This is becoming a yearly matchup. Remember, they faced off 2 years ago in the PK, the Phil Knight Invitational out in Portland, Oregon, went into triple overtime. Remember that game? Alabama got it done there. That was Alabama, Brandon Miller, Noah Clowney, Charles Bediako team. Then last year in the Sweet 16 game, it came down to the wire. Grant Nelson took over. Fun matchup. Armando Baycott. North Carolina going to be really good next year. They really, there's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. They're going to be really good next year. Preseason top 10 for Hubert Davis' squad. Got a lot of guys coming back. Alabama's got a lot of guys coming back. Could be the matchup of the tournament. We've seen it the third time. I wish we maybe would have got Alabama at Duke. But instead, I mean, you can't say it's a bad matchup. Auburn at Duke, that's going to be a fun matchup. Bruce Pearl, Coach Shire, that'll be a very fun matchup. I know Pearl and Shire were really wanting this matchup. This will be at Cameron Indoor Stadium. This will be a fun matchup. I mean, you got Auburn preseason top 10, Duke preseason top 10, Cameron Indoor. I think this is probably the best matchup because we haven't seen it, then followed by Alabama and North Carolina. So I think we got the two best matchups on one night. It'd be interesting if they separate that. I don't think you want to put those two matchups at the same time. I don't think ESPN's dumb enough to do that because you got the North Carolina and Duke brand, and Alabama and Auburn kind of is the new bloods, as you may, at times. You got Pitt at Mississippi State. Chris Jans and the squad should be pretty good. I like them at home. Texas and NC State. Remember, I forgot about NC State. Talking about who's carrying the load. We need Virginia and Louisville to be good for the ACC to kind of get that branding out there. I mean, NC State was in the Final Four last year. We do forget about that. But it's not as big of a brand. Rodney Terry and the boys' first year in the SEC heading up to Raleigh to get that. I think it's probably the third best matchup of that night. Vanderbilt at Virginia Tech. Yeah, it doesn't do a whole lot for me. And then Virginia at Florida. We saw that last year in Charlotte. I believe that game went into overtime. So that should be a good matchup. Todd Golden and his Florida group, the guards, the backcourt is going to be really good. It's going to be really good. I like this Florida team. Definitely my preseason top 20, top 15 as well. So I just wanted to preview a little bit, go over those matchups that we have in the ACC SEC Challenge. Where could they have gone a little differently? I mean, it's truly tough to say. I mean, if we're being honest here, I mean, I had a weird feeling we'd have Alabama going to North Carolina. Because remember, you got to situate this. Last year was the first year. They're not trying to have the same teams play back-to-back home games in this thing. So Alabama was at home last year against Clemson, lost. Auburn was at home against Virginia Tech last year. So it only made sense. Maybe if you send Alabama to Duke and Auburn to Carolina, it could have been better. That's where I'd probably go a little different. I'd probably go Auburn at North Carolina at the Dean Dome. Alabama going to Cameron Indoor. I mean, either way, I think that's just overall better because you haven't seen those matchups in a while. I do like the Wake Forest A&M one, though. That's one I do like. I like the Louisville Ole Miss one. I think that's under the radar. I don't know how good Louisville's going to be this year off the top of my head, but I do like what Chris Beard and what I think he can do in his second season in Oxford. So that'll be interesting from that standpoint. Then we're just looking at some other ones. I mean, Kentucky, Clemson, Texas, NC State, not bad to see if NC State can recreate that matchup last year. And Virginia at Florida isn't a bad matchup. It's just we saw it last year, similar to North Carolina, Alabama. But again, it isn't these people's fault that's creating these schedules. You have what you have in front of you. It is what it is. You have what you have in front of you. And you couldn't help Alabama and North Carolina were going to play in the Sweet 16 matchup. I think you could have moved that, though. That'd have been my only gripe would have been switching that. I think Alabama should be going to Cameron Indoor. Auburn should be going to Chapel Hill, just right next door. I mean, Alabama and Auburn will be maybe sharing the same hotel room that night. Just kidding, but it could be done. But my point being, little underwhelming matchups for being over honest here. And on this channel, on the SEC Unfiltered Network, we're not just going to sugarcoat things. We're going to give an opinionated, well-researched, well-thought-out response. I think we could have done a little better, but at the same time, when Virginia and Louisville are a little down in the ACC, and that's no discredit to NC State, but when those two teams are down, Virginia and Louisville, it doesn't really help the ACC's overall brand outside of just North Carolina and Duke, like I mentioned earlier. So I think that's why you don't see as many quote-unquote sexy matchups, but it's going to be fun. December 3rd and 4th, we got the matchup, 16 across the board. No one won it last year. We went 7-7 in the first annual SEC ACC Challenge. Maybe we get a little bit different of an outcome, but just want to do an instant reaction heading in to the 2024 SEC ACC Basketball Challenge. Again, guys, don't forget to like, subscribe, hit the notification bell, leave us a review. All things SEC on the SEC Unfiltered platform. I'm your host, Dave Shumate, long-time college football personnel guy in the SEC for 8-9 years. Again, guys, appreciate you joining us. You have a phenomenal day.